everyone. Welcome to yet another edition of the Wrap-Up. Dan Myers with me, as always, and I'm Nick Buckler. That's right, folks. We're talking Lions football to start the show. Some big things happened over the last week, including cutting some players and announcing they're not going to bring others back. And this is kind of big, Dan, because some big names on this list. Starting with Joique Bell, the running back. The team announced that they have cut Joique Bell, and it's... At first it came out, the team's cutting him. He's like, oh, see you guys later. It's been a good stay. But now it's come out that he has said the Lions offered him a contract, and he turned it down because he owes it to himself and his family to test the market. Dan, Joique Bell's not going to get signed by a team. I'm sorry. When you average 1.6 yards per carry over the course of a season, you're not meant for the NFL.
Yeah. Yeah, and unfortunately, especially with the season he had, it just, who's going to offer you maybe an arena football team, but that's about it with the season he had. So, yeah, unfortunately, it's, for one thing, I'm sick of hearing how he's a local guy, too. I'm sorry, that's just driving me nuts. Oh, it's such a great story. He was at Wayne State. He was doing the ushering at Ford Field. Oh, that's sweet, but what's he doing? What's he doing on the field? And that is as opposed to what he. Sorry, I'm just sick of hearing that story. That's too bad, though. But what can you do?
Yeah, what can you do?
Sorry.
He can. I'm sure the team's looking for a new Cabana boy. Joique Bell, you're going to have to put in an application because they're an equal opportunity employer. So you can't just hire him because he used to play for the Lions and he's a local guy. Played for Wayne State. Not happening. They also big name cut Stephen Tulloch. Last year led the Lions in tackles. Middle linebacker, plays pretty well. He's a veteran leader on the team, although obviously he's known for a couple years ago sacking Aaron Rodgers, celebrating, tearing his ACL. But definitely a good stay, but this is a good sign for general manager Bob Quinn. He's saying, we're moving in the right direction. We're going to kind of clean the slate, and we're going to spend some money, I think, this offseason because of these names that they've cleared up, Stephen Tulloch being one of them.
Yeah, some bold moves coming.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see how it plays out.
Absolutely, yeah. So, yeah, we'll see how it goes. Two pretty popular names for the Lions, and to see them go, well, they got something going, and now we're just still waiting on what Calvin Johnson's. See, I'm already forgetting about him.
Yeah,
Calvin Johnson's decision.
I really don't think Calvin's going to come back. He's a good veteran leader at this point, but I really think the team needs to kind of wipe the slate clean again. If they're going to do so with Joique Bell, they're going to do so with Stephen Tulloch as well. So, I mean, it's just, I think Calvin has to retire, and I think he wants to retire, but I think the pressure of his teammates in the front office saying, I think we just want to kind of move forward, but he's kind of holding on for the people who still want him to be a part of the team.
Yeah. We'll see. It's too bad we just can't move on and make a decision and get it going and accept what we need to work with and take that extra money that we have and put it towards someone. But he's given us a lot, and that's the least we can do.
Yeah, they definitely need to build an offensive line for quarterback Matthew Stafford. And it looks like they're going to have to retool a little bit of the secondary. Obviously, Rashean Mathis announced last week that he's going to retire. That's fine. But they announced that they're not going to bring back safety James Ahedibo. Ahedibo had been one of our better players in the secondary with interceptions and tackles, and he's a great shutdown safety. He's a big hitter. Him and Glover Quinn have been a good 1-2 punch back there ever since the missile Louis Delmas left. So James Ahedibo is a good guy, a good player, but I think all the off-the-field kind of things with him holding out for more money and never really being happy, but being one pride, I heard that's changing as well. But it's just all around kind of a step in the right direction, I think, a breath of fresh air for the Lions.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Dan, you're feeling yourself up over here on live TV. That's the thing, folks. We're just going to give you a quick 101 about being in the industry since it's happening. Dan Myers, co-host here, didn't silence his phone, and it's blowing up right now.
That one's rookie mistake.
Yeah, rookie mistake for the old man here. So why don't you share it with the viewers? Who's blowing you up?
That was an email. I'm not sure yet. So.
Spam. Good. Good to see spam is higher priority than the wrap-up here. These viewers aren't going to take it. You know what? That's going to pull out our first whipping stick. All right. Enough of that. Moving on.
I don't think the lights are on.
The lights weren't on, but if you do something stupid again, the lights are going to come on, and that might be a face shot. So sorry that we just promoted violence on television. Kids are in the room. I'm sorry. They should be in school anyways. But Haloti Ngata is a defensive tackle who still, his future is undetermined. He's a free agent. He said that he wants to come back to the Lions, and the Lions want to have him back. It's just a matter of kind of meeting somewhere in the middle and determining a good salary, because when he was healthy in the second half of the season, takes up a lot of space, fills those gaps for the running backs, and stops the run very well.
Yeah, definitely. He's very beneficial, and if we can sign him, that'd be great. It's just all a matter of just finding the right price range and not hurting the team too much. So, yeah, hopefully we can pick him up.
Yeah, definitely, and just going to have to move forward and really see what the offseason brings for the Lions, and I'm really excited.
Yeah, absolutely. What's next?
Dan, I'm glad you asked. We're talking basketball. Don't change the channel. I know basketball, you're going to quick on that thumb to change the channel, but guess what, folks? Pistons making moves, not staying still. They make a big trade. They trade Brandon Jennings, backup point guard, and Ersan Ilyasova to the Orlando Magic for Tobias Harris. And this is the guy Stan Van Gundy has been waiting for. The small forward, power forward, dynamite scorer. Doesn't shoot the best, but definitely can work on that. Only 26 years old. Stan Van Gundy is making moves. And although since the trade, the Pistons are 0-2, they've now lost 5 straight, moved out of the playoffs in 2 games under 500. They're now the 9th seed. I just think it's a matter of time before this team just starts to gel, and they could make a run into the playoffs now. This is the move, I think, that kind of puts them up to maybe like the 4th or 5th spot in the Eastern Conference. They can get hot at any time, and with Andre Drummond, Marcus Morris, now Tobias Harris playing the 3 with KCP and Reggie Jackson. The only thing I'm worried about now with Jennings being traded is now the Pistons have the worst backup point guard in the NBA. They have Steve Blake, who, let's just say, he's seen his better days. He's pretty rough around the edges. They need to make a move, maybe to sign somebody, promote somebody, maybe give Spencer Dinwiddie a little bit more time. But just overall, they need to find someone. They made another trade as well. But the interesting part about the second trade, they traded last week, the day of the trade deadline, Joel Anthony and a first-round pick to the Houston Rockets in exchange for Donatas Montejunas and Marcus Thornton. And now Montejunas shoots over 50%. He's 7'1". He shoots over 50% from beyond the arc. That's just silly. The dude's a giant, and he's just shooting lights out. Although he has only played 14 games this year and hasn't played in the calendar year of 2016 yet due to back injuries. Definitely a big pickup. If this trade doesn't get voided, Dan, they have till 6 p.m. Monday because he hasn't been cleared of his physical. And Joel Anthony, now sent from Detroit to Houston, was traded the exact same day to Philly. And now that trade would get undone. And then a player on Philly was sent through waivers. They can't undo the waiver move now if this trade voids. So this could just kind of be a big BF for everybody. And I hope it doesn't get voided, because I think, although due to injury, this is a guy that the Pistons need. They love shooters. They love big men. He can help rebounding with Drummond. Morris does, but he's more of a skill player than a guy who's going to get dirty and get you some rebounds. But Marcus Thornton's just an additional piece, a guy who can move the rock around and score some points. I really like what Stan Van Gundy's doing for the Pistons here. He wants to make a run this year, and I really respect that.
Yeah, that's great. It's, just to actually have the Pistons in playoff talk, and possibly making a run would be awesome. I was happy to see Jennings take off, get him out of here, and that was a solid pickup. I think we're just trying to find the gel and just get them, on a nice rhythm. Fortunately, we haven't seen too much of that right now, but it's only a matter of time. But they got the right coach behind them, leading them. He's one of the best in the league, and I'm happy to see how far they can go. It's nice to actually hear the Pistons talking about possibly having a playoff run. That's huge.
Yeah, but the thing that scares me now, although this trade would definitely help take care of that, is their depth. And especially, like I mentioned earlier, at point guard. Brandon Jennings was an excellent backup point guard, but he's more than that. And being a free agent at the end of the year, the Pistons had to get rid of him because he was going to walk. They gave Reggie Jackson that huge $80 million 5-year contract before this season, which I liked. He had 34 points on Sunday in their loss to the Unibrow. Anthony Davis, who dropped a Palace record 59 points on the Pistons, 24 rebounds. He's been an absolute freak, and the Pelicans, who are dreadful this year, beat the Pistons by 5 points. But that's right, 5 straight losses. But I want to take a look ahead now. Now with the depth, they have Stanley Johnson coming off the bench, who I think has been an excellent rookie. And then they're going to have Anthony Tolliver, who's played good minutes. And then obviously they used to have Ilyasova, who would start and he'd be between a 3-4 with Marcus Morris, but he's now gone. And now Monte Eunice, should this trade hold up, will be there as well. And I think he's going to bring a lot off the bench should he stay healthy. But other than that, the depth is just kind of shaky to me. At 2, I don't really know what you have going on there. At 3, I don't really know what you have going on there. It's it's a gray area, but I think Stan Van Gundy's got it under control. Obviously, they have Baines at center, who's played well when he's been called upon, though he's not that big of a name. He came over from San Antonio at the beginning of the year. But you have Drummond as your number 1 center, and he's going to be here, I think, for a long time. They just got to get him to that contract, but I think he will sign. But the Pistons are built to make future runs. They're a young team, and like you said, it's just a matter of getting that LA Looks gel cooking.
Yep.
You know, get that Paul Mitchell product up in your hair and just crust and gel. And I really think that they can. And I really do think they're going to make the playoffs this year, although they're in a tailspin, playing their worst basketball of the year. They can beat, in a series, they are better than any team in the Eastern Conference except Cleveland and except Toronto. I think they could beat Atlanta. I think they could beat Miami, Boston, Indiana, Chicago. They've proved that they can beat these teams. They beat Chicago 3 out of 4 games this year, and 3 of those games have been at the United Center in Chicago. They still have to play them one more time. But they're right there. They're on the doorstep. They're right where they want to be. And I think this Harris trade definitely puts them over the top. And it's just a matter of signing these guys now long term. Obviously, Harris isn't a free agent at the end of the year, but the 2 guys they acquired from Houston, should the trade hold, Thornton and Monte Eunice, both free agents. Thornton unrestricted, Monte Eunice restricted. I think Monte Eunice will sign. Thornton maybe not, but he's a depth shooting guard, and I really think the Pistons are built for a run and for the next couple of years as well.
Yep, absolutely. Their investment team, even all the way up to the owners. He's throwing money into the building. He's throwing money at players. He's throwing money at coach. It's just finding that youth and that core to get them going. But I mean, going back to the 04 team, going to work era, they really weren't on the map. I mean, you had a couple big names, but for the most part, they really showed up and put their, stamped their permanent residency, in the NBA during that era. So yeah, it's hopefully we can relive that again with the youth that we have, and this investment pays off for the Pistons.
Yep, and now the trade deadline is now passed in the NBA. One coming up 1 week from Monday, February 29th. It's the NHL trade deadline, and the Red Wings are right in the thick of things now. The top wild card team, 69 points. They trail 3 teams in the division, Boston, Tampa Bay, and Florida. And they lead Pittsburgh by a point. However, Pittsburgh has 2 games in hand in the wild card. So if playoffs were to start today, Pistons, the Red Wings would go to Sunrise, Florida, to play the Panthers in a playoff series, which I like that matchup better than I like Boston and better than I like Tampa Bay. I think Florida is not meant for a series. They have Bobby Lou in net, but I think other than that, I don't think they're a team that can win a series. They're definitely faded out now. They've been playing 500 hockey over the last month and a half. Definitely they're past their prime, at least in this season. Jágr, however, not. He passes Brett Hull on Saturday night for 3rd all-time in NHL scoring, but the Red Wings have to make a trade. After now losing 4 straight games all on the road, after going 4-0-1 on the homestand, it just kind of wiped it out. They were 4-0-1, could have been 5-0. Now 0-2-2 since, picking up a shootout loss on Saturday night, an overtime loss on Sunday night in Madison Square Garden on a game that Jimmy Howard started, and he deserved a win. It was the best start of Jimmy Howard's season, I think. Shut out the Rangers in Madison Square Garden through regulation, and then a 2-on-1 burns him in overtime. But the Red Wings just need to score goals, and they have struggled. Guys who have been freaks on the ice, one that comes to mind is Andreas Athanasiou, is only playing 6 to 7 minutes a game, but he has maximized every minute that he's had and made it. He's just so efficient when he's on the ice. I really think he needs to get more time and maybe give a guy like Riley Sheehan less time. He's really struggled of late. The line, especially Sheehan, I believe it's Darren Helm and Luke Glendening on that third line, they're calling it. They've mixed the third and fourth line around a little bit, but they've really disappointed me. But Helm has played better since he's been moved out of the top six because he's not a top six player. He's a fast, gritty, grind kind of player who can kill penalties. He's not a skill player, and that's how Blashill was treating him towards the beginning of this year. But they need a top six forward. They need a guy who can score, and I have two players on my list right now that I think are top possibilities. Number one in my mind, who I've taken some heat for this because they've called him another Abdelkader or something like that, but I think Andrew Ladd from Winnipeg will be an excellent fit here in Detroit. He's physical. He scores, more importantly. I really think Andrew Ladd is a guy, he's an unrestricted free agent. I don't think he'll be too expensive for Winnipeg. And we just have so much depth at forward that people are saying, well, we have a lot of forwards. Yeah, we'll trade some. You have so many guys that you can get rid of who just aren't top six players. You have so many depth third and fourth line guys. Where are these big goal scorers?
I was going to say right there and then, we know we got all these forwards, but where were they yesterday? Thank God we had Jimmy. Jimmy was playing a good game in net. He wasn't the human strainer like he normally is.
Yeah.
When they got that, he was just making unbelievable saves. It's the Jimmy Howard of the past. So anyone that's giving you, any trouble for wanting to pick up Ladd, take that stick and go hit him with it.
No, where
That
should we put this somewhere?
Yeah, but this is a family show, so
look at that.
I love the idea of picking up Ladd. That's great.
It'll be glowing out your mouth when I'm done.
Yeah, there you
know
go.
what I'm saying. Continue, please.
How do you can follow that? But yeah, you're right. Absolutely. It was just we do have to pick up some forwards. I think we have an abundance of medium to mediocre talent that we could get rid of. 2 or 3 at a time, and get a big star for it, or even just get them out of because they're not producing like they should. I really want to see Gus Nyquist step up also. I really think he's way overdue, especially yesterday.
He almost had that goal in overtime about 5 seconds before the Rangers won it. He squeaked one right behind Lundqvist. He didn't know where it was. And then Kreider obviously cleared it out, and then they scored. But other than that, Nyquist has been invisible for the past 2 months.
Oh, don't get me wrong. I love Henrik Lundqvist. He's one of my favorite goalies. But the way they were making him sound, he was staying on his head yesterday. He's doing a great job.
He really wasn't.
He wasn't
tested.
challenged.
No, not at all.
He wasn't challenged at all. And it was just so frustrating. Here Jimmy Howard finally has a good game. There's a good chance we could just redeem ourselves from the 6-3 Penguins loss that we had Thursday night by having a strong performance by our goalie and have the forwards show up, but it just wasn't happening.
Forwards didn't show up.
Not at all.
22 shots, maybe 3 of them were prime scoring chances. And you're not going to win hockey games like that in this level.
No, and if you're going to be playing teams like Tampa, Florida, in the playoffs, you got to score. I mean, it goes without saying. So it was really frustrating watching that game, especially. It was Hockey Day in America. We were closing out that segment or that game. It was the last game of the night, and it was pretty embarrassing. I mean, but if there was any positive feedback from me about that game was Jimmy Howard stood in his head, and he definitely needs to be applauded for that.
Yeah, he really does, and I would like to think that improved his trade value, although Ken Holland has come out and said, we're not trading Jimmy Howard. So I just don't know if I agree because you have a $5.3 million backup goalie, and although he had a good game, he's still not your starting goaltender. Peter Mrazek has definitely earned it, but it's frustrating that your GM's going to come out and already just nix it no matter what is offered. And I think a team who needs a backup goalie or maybe a starting goalie at this point and with years left on his contract is a team like the Calgary Flames. Kari Ramo goes on IR. He tore his ACL. He's out for the season. And now you just have Jonas Hiller. And he definitely seen his better days back when he was with the Anaheim Ducks. I don't think he's a guy that can lead a team anywhere. Obviously, Calgary's done. They're out of it. They're sellers. A player who's realistic and a free agent at the end of the year is a familiar name, Yuri Hudler. Why not bring back Happy Hoods? He was 3rd in the NHL in scoring last year. This year, a down year, but everyone in Calgary's been down. Maybe the change of scenery, come back with his old Euro friends. He knows Nyquist, he knows Tatar, he knows Hank, he knows Pav, he knows Croner, It's not like he's going to come in and need time to gel. Sure, he might need to get used to the new system with Jeff Blashill, but it's not entirely different than what it was with Mike Babcock. So I just think that I think he'd be a great fit, and I really think he'd be a cheap fit. Obviously, maybe Jimmy Howard's not the guy that's going to go, but even if they don't trade him, I still think he's a guy they could get. Calgary is listening. Hey, we're out of it. What are you going to give us? Who do you want? Name your player. I think everyone's available on that team except for maybe Johnny Hockey and Mark Giordano. I think anyone else is open for business. You want Sean Monahan? What are you going to give us? You want Sam Bennett? We're listening. You want Hoods? What are you going to give us? I mean, it's only a matter of time. Anthony Mantha's playing excellent in Grand Rapids right now. He had a hat trick last week. He's got 5 goals in his last 3 games. So he's ready. He's just waiting. But again, the Red Wings don't have room for a guy like him right now. Eric Tangradi, physical, scorer, big. Don't have room for a player like him. Let's get the dead weight off the team. Timu Pulkkinen should not be in the NHL. Thomas Jurko, although he's played better, still get rid of him. I would like to see Darren Helm traded as well, but beggars can't be choosers. If the Red Wings don't make a trade, they're not going to make the playoffs. And I'm going to say it right now, today, February, whatever the hell day it is, if the Red Wings don't make a trade, the streak comes to an end at 24 years. It's a crying shame. They've never missed the playoffs in my lifetime, and I don't want to see it start this year, but Ken Holland needs to get on the hook. And I really don't know if he's gonna. He's been saying the same things for years. He makes a move almost every year. Last year I thought was an excellent trade, although it didn't pan out. In Eric Cole and Marek Zidlitsky. Zidlitsky played well for us, but then he got hurt in Game 7 of the series against Tampa. Didn't play. Obviously Crownwall was suspended for that game, which still hurts my heart. And then Eric Cole, obviously, with the head injury and the spine injury, ended up just about ending his career. But the Red Wings didn't give up a whole lot for them. They gave up some players to be named, 3rd round and 5th round picks. That's fine. The Red Wings are a team that can build from free agency. They've always been. And that's why they're always contenders. They don't ever rebuild. The past 3 years have been the rebuilding. And they've been in the thick of things all those years. And that's the beauty of having a GM who wants to win and an owner who dies just to win. And that's why Detroit is the best sports town in the world. This is hockey town. They're not going to put up with not making the playoffs, so they have to make a move, and I think they will.
Yeah. And going back to what you're saying about Howard, too, is the big pivotal turning point possibly, or a good building block, was yesterday when they gave him that I think it was it Mike Green that tripped him up when the guy was on a breakaway, and they gave him a penalty shot.
Yeah.
And that was huge. You could just see that. I think that's going to be a big turning point, is when he made that save, he came out, pumped his fist, and looked right at the bench, and you could just see the confidence being rebuilt. I think if they would have scored, obviously there's Howard with the penalty shot yet again. But, that was huge. He looked over to the bench. He says, I think one of the announcers said, whoever was between the boards said, you could hear him say, I got this. And I think Ken Holland knows that it's a big mental battle with Jimmy Howard, and so that's why I don't think Holland's opposed to selling Jimmy Howard, getting rid of him, making a good trade with him. But he knows, and I think everyone knows in that locker room, that Howard's got some mental games going on. He's got a real demon on his shoulder with that, and he's not going to say anything because he knows he might have him for a while. And if Howard knows that he's going to be put up the chopping block, he's not doing a good job, and that's going to affect his performance.
So you think Ken Holland just said that for confidence?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I can agree. All right, Dan, we're going to close the segment by, I'm going to say, you tell me one player you think the Red Wings will trade by the end of the year, and I'll give you mine. Give me one player that you think hands down will be traded at the deadline for the Detroit Red Wings.
Honestly, I think
anywhere. It could be Grand Rapids. It could be on the team. It could be a pick. It could be whatever you want. Go.
I want to say Anthony Mantha.
He's gone.
Yeah. I want to say he could. There's a good chance he might be gone. I think they've held on to him long enough. We passed in some good players. And like you were saying, we do need to make a trade by the end of this, or before this playoff run, at the end of this deadline, and because that's going to be on the line. I think that'd be a solid choice. And he's got value too.
I can see that as well. I purchased myself a Grand Rapids Griffins player T-shirt. They only had 5: Jared Coro, Anthony Mantha, Eric Tangrady, Jake Patterson, and I can't remember who the other was. But I was between Mantha and Tangrady. And I said, I think Mantha might get traded, so I'm going to go with the Eric Tangrady. By the way, it looks great on me. Maybe I'll wear it next week. But so Mantha is a possibility, but I'm going to go with Teemu Pulkkinen. I think he has very good upside. Led the AHL in scoring last season. Shoots a lot. Right-handed shot. Although he's small, gets pushed around. Obviously not fitting in here in Detroit. He's been a healthy scratch leading up to Saturday's game for 11 straight games ever since Andreas Athanasiou. So excited, can't even say his name. Got called up. Pulkkinen's been the odd man out, and I think there's definitely upside in trade value to him. I think he's gone come next Monday. But I guess we'll find out. And the wrap-up will have it right here because we're going to be live tweeting next Monday. We're going to have it for you. Trade deadline day is excellent, 3 p.m., February 29th, Eastern Standard Time. Dan Myers will be here. I'll be here, Nick Buckler. You'll be here too. Have a great week, and go Detroit, right?